All right, this is Maddie with Mad DIY Marketing. I wanted to say hello and good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We're so excited to have you listen to the conversation that all these amazing entrepreneurs are about to have together. This episode is in part of a collaboration with Fund 17, Propeller, Recirculating Farms Coalition, Food Policy Advisory Committee, and Mad DIY Marketing. We created the Digital Shelf series to bring food businesses together to discuss how we can adjust and adapt to a more digital shelf space, a space that COVID-19 has placed the majority of food businesses. This afternoon, we have a wonderful panel of New Orleans food businesses. They'll be discussing, how they've pivoted and kind of creatively changed some strategies that are involved with their businesses because of COVID-19. It's going to be a great conversation. I just wanted to mention a few housekeeping items before we begin. Please remember to keep your microphones on mute if you're not in the panel. This episode is going to be recorded. You will get a copy of this webinar at the end. So just be mindful of that. Also, there will be a Q&A session at the end. So please hold your questions until the end, and I promise the entrepreneurs and the businesses will get them answered. This is also a great opportunity for you to engage and ask some questions. Again, we're so happy that you can join us, and I'm going to let each of the entrepreneurs introduce themselves. So I'll pass the mic to Lauren, our moderator for today's panel. Thank you so much, Lauren.
Thank you. Hello. Happy Thursday, 12 in New Orleans, wherever you are. I'm excited to be here. I'm the executive director of Made New Orleans Foundation, an organization that supports Black and Brown chefs, as well as hospitality professionals to traverse barriers and challenges and really to thrive in the food economy and space that is New Orleans. So I'm excited to be here, hold the space for this conversation. We've got some forces of nature on this call. So I'm privileged to know some before for this call, and also excited to hear what everyone's up to and what you've been up to. And so from that, we'll kind of popcorn, sharing your name and what you're up to. So let's take it away. I won't put anyone on the spot, but be generous.
I can start.
All right, Barrie, thank you.
Hi, guys. My name is Barrie Schwartz, and I am the founder of My House Events. And we are culinary curators that connect an ecosystem of chefs, restaurants, food trucks, and pop-ups to the events industry. And we also focus on Black, Brown, and women chefs being a part of additional revenue opportunities and making space for those connections. And we'll talk a lot about the pivot, but we, since the pandemic, have also been doing connecting chefs to government contracts, which is totally new for us, but becoming a big part of our business.
And so important. Thank you, Barrie. Who's next?
I'm Jeremy Oatis, co-founder of Pickled NOLA. We're local as in here in New Orleans, homemade pickling company. So we make delicious pickled veggies. We vend in farmers markets and things like that. And just yesterday, our product was rolled out at a local grocery store, another local grocery store here in town. So yeah, I'm excited to be a part of this panel and add to the discussion.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Jeremy.
Congratulations on that Bromart rollout, by the way, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Great.
Appreciate it.
My name is Alyssa Hernandez. I am the, yeah, absolutely. My name is Alyssa Hernandez. I am the founder of Prosper Preserve Co., formerly known as No Hunger NOLA. We are a sustainable canning company So we make pickles, preserves, as well as fermented foods, and everything is made from upcycled produce. Currently, we are, which will be part of this larger conversation, but we're working directly with farmers now, buying their seconds and their, quote unquote, ugly produce. So
Cool.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sinnidra Taylor, owner of Crazy Waffle Bar, a mobile waffle boutique. We are pivoting to doing more than events, but pre-COVID, we only did like large events. And coming soon in 2021, I'll be opening a commissary and food incubator, Cody's Commissary and Co-op.
Amazing.
Awesome.
So
I'm super excited about that. I
I
can't wait to-
love hearing about all these announcements. It's great.
I know a lot of these people, but I don't know what everybody's up to because we don't see each other anymore. I'm Marguerite Green. I'm the executive director of Sprout NOLA. We're a farmer and gardener technical assistance and training nonprofit. So one of our major activities before COVID and now is connecting farmers to like sustainable markets. And we specifically focused on Black, brown, and women-owned farms. And then we also low capital farms as well. So just trying to kind of reduce some of the barriers in the food system from the producer side. And what that has meant during COVID is a lot of digital training, a lot of getting people into online marketplaces. And then similar to Barrie at my house, we've been doing navigation of like government contracts and sort of online relief programs for farmers. And it's actually opened up our organization to dealing with a lot more old timers. So it's been really interesting. We used to work with a lot of beginning and young farmers, and now we're working also with a lot of older farmers who are adapting to technology during the pandemic.
Cool.
I'm a big fan, Marguerite. My name is Arpit Bhopalkar. I am founder of Bhoomi. Bhoomi is a Sanskrit word for Mother Earth, and we make cold-pressed cane water-based beverages by extracting water out of sugarcane stock. We source our sugarcane from minority African American sugarcane farmers in Louisiana to support equitable economy and be part of the story that needs to change in terms of how farming has been done in the United States. Excited to share more and learn more about from other panelists and what we can share to help you in any way possible. Thank you.
you, Arpit. That's everyone. Yeah, we did that. Pretty nice. We did that. Okay, so there's so much to share and start to dig into. I just want to sort of acknowledge the fact that we're still in the pandemic, right? The pandemic hasn't really disappeared, and that we're all like figuring these things out emotionally, physically, mentally. There's just a lot that is on our plate, whether you have a business, you don't have a business, whether you're just a human being at this time on this planet. So it's important to set the context for that. And since we're talking about New Orleans and New Orleans specific and how we navigate, New Orleans is going to be different from other places, right? But we're looking for those like common threads that really have really supported you during this time. So I want to talk about something called aha to action. So what was an aha that you had? What was something that you were like, okay, COVID, I'm not going to use this. I'm going to use this. And it was an aha, and then it formed into an action.
I mean, for our company, when we started getting emails, I would say almost earlier than a lot of people around me in New Orleans started really realizing what was going on, because we work with so many people on the East and West Coast. So very early in March, people were asking us about their destination weddings in New Orleans. And it started my brain spinning on like, oh, something's about to happen. We were supposed to have about 40 different events in March and April. And I would say started, like, have always heard about after Katrina, different chefs that businesses were able to make it through that hard time because of contracts with FEMA, and started to kind of like hear the rumblings of what that could look like once the stay-at-home order was issued. And very much it was like an aha moment, just reading like a NOLA.com article about that, and just being like, oh wow, like our business model and the logistics and the chefs we work with, like that would be very much so like a thing we could do during this time that would make sense. And there was definitely just like an aha moment there where it was like, okay, let's pursue this.
I definitely would say that I had an aha moment very early in the pandemic. So pre-pandemic, we were known as No Hunger NOLA. We were a canning company, but we were working, got into working in food policy locally and advocacy, as far as sustainability as well as food justice. And our model pre-pandemic was to take in recovered produce predominantly from restaurants and produce purveyors, distributors, and things like that. So as soon as the shutdown started for us, things started coming in because we were one of the only people in the city that were taking in recovered foods at the time. And so texts started coming in and emails started coming in and shutdowns were happening and restaurants were closing. And you go into that just like sheer panic mode in the beginning, and at a certain point, I definitely had an aha that was like, oh no, this is what we do. So we, marched into action and had the idea to launch a meal kit program utilizing the excess food from restaurants that were shutting down. And myself coming from the service industry in New Orleans, obviously a huge effect of the layoffs was for people in the service industry. So the idea was to connect the excess food from restaurants and actually utilize them to build meal kits for people that were now out of work, whether they were in the service industry or any other. And, that kind of being our wheelhouse, we were in a unique position to kind of make that happen. Sent a few texts, set up a few Google documents or Google forms. And, within a couple of days, we had a kitchen space, we had chefs on deck, we had volunteers, and we had a lot of food. So we ran that program for about 3 weeks. We, gave out more than 1,300 meals to out of workers, and we ran an extra 2 weeks doing grocery bags. So we contributed all of the produce that we had left over to Culture Aid's grocery distribution. So
your aha was that like, oh, we actually know what to do. Like we actually have the resources and we can actually do this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yep, good.
Our aha moment was our product is refrigerated and it primarily goes through retail stores, and we realized, oh, we did not develop our online channel. So that was a aha moment. It wasn't like something that immediately turned out to be a success story in terms of revenue, but we realized how important it is to pay attention to online sales and how it is going to change in future, and how in terms of product development can we find avenues where we can utilize online channel, because clearly it is where people are moving towards. So that was the big picture aha moment for us. We, as a lot of other people, we focused on new innovation, controlled what we can control, and just for being patient was something that taking it one step at a time.
Patience. Oh, that was I'm so glad that you said that. That's real. That's so true. It was like being patient. And then also, our lives are more lived online more than they were before. And so thinking about like, how do you drive traffic? How do you promote a product? How do you launch? How do you, all of these things, I'm sure that each of you had to think through in a different way. So thank you. That's a good nugget for us to unpack a little bit after. Anyone else want to share about their aha?
Yeah, I'll share. My aha was around diverse customer base. So before COVID, I was, really excited. I had schools, sales reps at hospitals, trying to get into conferences. And so I'm like, I have a diverse customer base. But the one thing they all had in common was that they were large groups. So when kids went back home and people were working from home, I literally had no customer base. And so I had to reevaluate and like significantly pivot from what I was essentially trying to move away from, which were those like individual sales. I had to turn back around. I mean, I had a beautiful plan. It was just so amazing. But now I have to reevaluate what a diverse customer base looks like. How am I going to continue to grow? And at some point when conventions start and things and conferences start, target that, but also continue to serve those individual customers. Now every person's dollar counts, and I need to figure out how to scale and do that at the capacity at which I am at each level. And so that was my aha moment around what does a diverse customer base really look like?
That's awesome. Thank you. Because that, yes, the plan that we all had has been thrown so many times in a different direction. It's crazy. But yeah, thinking about your whole marketing plan, your whole business plan of where are the people and how can you find them? So that's a really great point. Thank you. And also the pain of just being like, oh, large groups, where's my bread and butter? And like, now what? Now what am I gonna do? And Barrie and I had many conversations about that, of just like that, especially for Minnow and how we fundraise, just affects every single area of life. Okay, anyone else want to share an aha? There's only one person left.
Yeah, we had that moment early on during the pandemic, when everybody was going crazy. I know I'm guilty of it, right? I remember the last day on my job when they sent us all home and said, y'all won't be returning back to the school for another month. And we all were buying toilet paper and we were just raiding these stores, and it really felt like the end. And I honestly didn't know where things were going with my business. And the second, immediately we saw so many organizations just coming out, right, saying, how can we support businesses? And there were so many opportunities that were made available for what we do. If it was putting our product in a produce box, if it was changing the way we did farmers markets and things like that. And we kind of saw an opposite effect of what some people saw, where business kind of fell off for some people. We saw early on where business picked up for us, but it was done in a much different way. And the aha was when I realized, like, wait, you can do this. You will succeed. Like, this is not the end. So that was very encouraging for us. And, it's still kind of carrying us at this time where I see this huge, huge future for what we're doing, just because of what I was able to realize early on in the pandemic, when it just felt like this was the end. We're a young company. We definitely love what we do. We're having fun, but it was kind of scary, feeling like, oh, it's over. But then immediately saying like, no, it isn't over. Like there's more to this. You just have to be willing to do it a little bit different than how you were doing it before. So
thank you for that. Yeah, that's very, very true. A willingness. And because I also feel like you could speak to about like resistance to change, when, especially around your business, if one way has worked really well and then, you have to think outside the box a little bit, which, maybe we should speak to that, because I think that would be, what is required of you to think outside of the box? Like, what is that and how did that show up in your business? I mean, we kind of mentioned a little bit in some of the ways, but I think, you know, one of the chefs I work with, Chef Cassidy in New York, she was like, her first question was, who is making money now? Who are the people who are making money, and how do I figure out what they're doing well, right? So any inspired people that you saw or seeing that inspired your business and what you're up to? And Margie, I haven't forgot about you if you want to add your aha too. Okay.
I mean, I won't roll back on our aha. Well, I'll quickly say it. I love, Jeremy, what you were saying about like that first moment. And I always remember I made my best friend sanitize individual blueberries because we like thought that food was gonna get us sick. But we really had to pivot to online, which is impossible for farmer training and development. And I think our aha moment is very similar to when Alyssa said, like, we already had the infrastructure, we just never leaned into it. So we've been running a program, and this actually ties together with your second question. We've been running a program called the Truck Farm Table for several years now, both in partnership with the Crescent City Farmers Market and at our own Refresh Farmers Market. And the premise is that it's essentially a place where farmers can have the labor of being at market subsidized by our staff. They can split market rent. It's both a cooperative development model where they're, you know, seeing that bringing products together equals more sales than they would have had alone. And it helps startup farms that don't have the time or the space to actually come to that 4-hour market span. We had that in place. And what it ended up being was this conduit for farmers who, for whatever reason, couldn't adapt to online sales, were maybe of an age that it wasn't safe to take those initial risks in going to market. And so our aha moment was also being like, we've always been able to kind of architect more accessible online programs. We just never conceived of them as necessary. And leaning into that. And then in terms of what I've seen with people who are making this work and kind of having innovation that's leading them to success, is that I noticed that the people who are thriving are not looking at what's happening right now and fully committing to that, because I've just learned over the past 8 months that, like, I know nothing, and nothing that I do is going to work in a month. Like, I'm going to have to learn a new thing in a month. And so if I decide that, like, I can get everybody to where I need them via Instagram, like, that algorithm's going to change. You know, we all thought that moving all of our programming to Zoom was going to work, and we had like 150 attendees at everything, you know, in April. And now it's just, everything changes. People's emotions are directing whether they feel safe going to events, whether it's not CDC guidelines that anyone's like internally following, though it should be. So just, you have to keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening right now, but then also not be like, oh, people are going to online streaming concerts, I'll invest all of my money in online streaming concerts and the food around them. You have to be like, what's going to happen when people are burnt out with that? So you know, that's not a singular answer, but it's not like committing to the next coolest thing. It's like trying to figure out what the coolest thing after that is.
Totally. I feel like building off that also, like on a similar thread, if you like, for us, because like you're saying, everything is just constantly going to change, and like everything is uncertain, which is, to me personally and professionally, been a really good life lesson to like really internalize. But also just like thinking about the why for your business, and like, no matter what's going on and no matter how the times are shifting, always coming back to like, okay, our why is still the same. Like, maybe the how is going to keep changing, but the why is still the same. And I feel like for us, it was very much like, okay, why? And it was like, okay, well, because we do this because a lot of chefs are chefs, meaning they love cooking, and that is why they became a chef. And our why is that we really feel we can connect them to other opportunities. And as we like continually are readjusting our business model, it was like, okay, well, before, when New Orleans was thriving as a tier 1 convention city, and hopefully that'll happen again, but we thought we could connect people to that because that was what was happening. And unfortunately, because of the state of the depressing world, there's a lot, the money right now is in government contracts and federal aid, and our why and like the new kind of like people that we can connect chefs to happens to be that. And just, I feel like that's been a really helpful compass of, instead of like, it's not really a time for a strategy or a future plan, but a time for like continually making sure you're still doing your why, but that matches with like the current times.
Who, thank you, Barrie. Thank you, Margie. That's great. I'm curious, who has government contracts right now? Yeah, we'll be up. Barrie, who is, so yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, what we have is not, what we're connecting farmers to is not government contracts in that same sense where there's ongoing participation. So we're working to connect farmers to coronavirus food relief programs. And I actually think it kind of ties into the marketing and the pivoting side of this, because we'll meet a lot of farmers who don't want to apply for this money, which is essentially like the PPP for farms, or, you know, like your stimulus check for farms, because so many like raw food producers or crop producers didn't actually lose money. They pivoted to like online farmers markets or individual pickups, and people really enveloped the farm community because we were scared of losing our restaurant, you know, the restaurant industry, the farming industry. And so people even donated to for-profit farms like unsolicited. So we have a lot of farmers who are like, oh, I shouldn't apply for that money. I already got, I made my goals this year. And what they're not conceiving of is that like the process of making that money was completely different, and what they had to pour into their business to still have that same income is way different. So if you had to hire like 3 family members to help you because you couldn't have employees that weren't in a pod, if you had to buy a computer, if you had to like do all of this pivoting, then even if you still made your 40,000 that you wanted to make, what went into that? And that's what programs like that help cover.
Yeah. Let's talk about online business, since it's in the water. Or what, you know, what does that look like for, what's been the shift, and how does that look like for you? Like, what are you like, yeah, this is really working, we're excited, and might help some of our participants who are listening. And then what's one thing that you tried and it was like, meh, that didn't work, assuming that that there's something to go from there.
So in online business, what has changed is like a lot of discoveries that used to happen in retail stores, that discovering a new product has considerably gone down, because people are just have a goal to go in, go out. So discovering a new product is shifted to online completely. No, I won't say completely, but to a very large extent. So having an online presence has become a key to getting the first trial. What we are also seeing is that people were willing to spend money on something that is valuable to their health. So pivoting to a health focus, that worked for a lot of brands. Price point is definitely one thing. Of course, there are customers who are willing to pay, but still it's a disposable income is kind of, you know, with the uncertainty right now, it's challenging. So making sure that the budget or the pivot, you know, you strategize your budget to see how the pivot towards online is going to take place, because for a young brand, it's still to get significant number of customers, brands have taken help of ads, and ads have also become expensive. So what used to be the average customer spent has gone up during the pandemic. So that all these things are important, and at the same time, it helps to figure out what is working. So say you have 3 different variants of a product. If one is working, how you can maximize on that one product. If you can um, speak with your UPS or FedEx or USPS agent, or if you can build a relationship to get the cost down, because shipping cost can come down, could be these are the 2 aspects that I'd say that can be worked on in terms of online. But yeah, did I answer the question? I know I went all over the place.
No, that's great. what I'm hearing is, testing and then going towards what working, and then that also basic foundational business stuff like negotiate and gets, we sometimes forget because of how times are. You don't want to ask for too much. You don't, we know everyone's sort of like in their own thing, but I also think like just being a champion for your own business. And I know I've had to walk this line as being a nonprofit and doing a really difficult time and asking people to support us. I've just sort of had to like, I believe in our mission. And at the end of the day, like if people have it, they'll give. And if they don't, they'll say no. So it's just sort of the reality that is. Any other online business tips or observations to share?
For me, mine came around just auditing my website, paying attention to the traffic, and it's changed twice and it's still not good enough. So it's like I have increased traffic, but it hasn't translated into sales. And just trying to figure out why are people coming and why aren't they spending? And so what's the disconnect? Looking at that a lot for me has been important, and also learning more about things like meta tags, when you're posting, what things should be in your caption if it's uploading to your website to help you rank higher on Google without actually having to pay. And so whereas my website was a secondary resource because I could talk to people and say, this is what we offer, go to my website. And so now people might go to my website before they see me. And so that, and also trying to figure out how can I have a more personal presence online? So should I start doing more videos? Should I go live more? I usually didn't put myself on my page as much. And so just trying to figure out what image do I want to put out there? Am I going like in my shirt? Do I want like a real behind the scenes? And, still figuring that out. And just to be like clear, I know a lot of companies, like it looks like breweries have been able to like successfully pivot like this and do like hand sanitizer, but my pivot is like slow motion. But yeah, that's what I got.
Heard.
I was gonna quickly say, like, one of the things when you're asking about like what works and what doesn't work, I have learned that for anybody who's going online for who's doing their sales online, that wasn't their primary mode of doing that. I think there's collective anxiety in the world. And if there's not really, really clear instructions about how to access a product, I've just noticed that people get very anxious about it. So if we put up something that's like more details coming soon, or an ordering window that's confusing, like it's definitely very hard for people to schedule their lives and like conceive of how they're going to get that product. So just the amount of clarity and like message editing I've had to do around where to get things and what times things are has been a really big learning curve. And I think that when people approach a site and they can't tell how to get the product safely, then they shut off or like leave. And so that's been a learning experience for me.
Awesome.
I echo what you said. Alongside what I just remembered that a lot of companies have been using social proof, such as published as seen in these many publications. That kind of builds confidence to the customers, and that if there was a comparison I saw between the brands that did that and that didn't do it, there was a social proof during these times, especially when somebody has not tried a product. That confidence builds up.
Yeah, I will definitely say, so for us, when the market started shutting down, I, built our online store in like 24 hours, like a mad woman, just like at the computer. And what Arpit is saying as well is as far as it being a new challenge, because if you are a smaller company and you now have no avenues to get your product in front of a customer, you have to kind of adapt that. And yeah, to go back a little bit to the prior question as well, I believe, apologies for my connection issues. But as far as like seeing people and being inspired by them, I think that I was just very inspired by the community at large here. You know, farmers, CPG producers, all of those things, everybody that we were, you know, in the market ecosystem with kind of pivoted very quickly to online stores and pickup points and things like that. And everybody kind of came together in order to make those things work. So we were partnered with Levy Baking Co. throughout the pandemic as a pickup point. You know, home deliveries were very successful for us. Something maybe that flopped a little bit was we did some trial runs of shipping, and Arpit may have an easier go of this. I'm not sure if Jeremy's ever tried to ship pickles, but it's a very heavy product and very, very expensive to ship. So that was, you know, maybe we will need to branch out our product lines more before we can really assess that as a viable option. But really, yeah, that pivot has been a lot slower, as Cindy said, like
that's the move of the day.
But adaptability, that's it. That's the name of the game. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, what I'm hearing, which is, I think, you know, we don't say it enough, because I really acknowledge each of you, and we have some owners, you know, entrepreneurs on the participating in the call right now, but like, you know, the getting is good right now. Like, it really is a time where, like, from the chefs that I work with, there's a lot more collaboration. There's a lot more, and Alyssa, I'm so glad that you said that. There's a lot more of like pop-ups happening, and there's like a you know, this sort of innovation and creativity that's sort of driving through. I mean, I think, Cindy, you're like totally a part of this because of the commissary space that you're working on and happy to be a part of. I'm happy to be a part of. There's just so much that of like, it's like, all right, what is not working? Okay, what are my resources? What's my strategy? How can I, have everyone see that picture of the hamster that's hanging in this corner of the wall with his legs out like this? No? Okay, well, you should see it. It's amazing. But there's a hamster that's like on the wall, like doing some like, oh my gosh, whatever you call it, when you like grab onto things. The point being that there's like a determination of like, no matter what is being thrown at me in my business, that like, we're gonna make it work. So with saying that, I sort of want to transition a little bit as I get mindful of time, and before we get into sort of Q&A. But were there moments where you felt like you were on the wall and you're like, we're not going to make it. It's not going to make. And then what happened that you're like, okay, it's going to be okay. If it's a mantra or if it was something, or what was it? I know my moment, but I want to.
Yeah, I'm still feeling that way. I mean, our literal like saying is like people gathering over a meal. And as much as we can do to pivot, like there is just, in my opinion, not like there's nothing greater than like sitting together over a meal. And I think there's a lot to be said over like waiting for when that happens, because there will be a day when that happens. And to me, a lot of what's happening now for us and the restaurants we work with, who a lot, like a good amount of them have already decided or had to close. And I think that there is a lot of cool pivoting happening and so much amazing community going on, but there's also just like a big reshifting of people's lives. And yeah, I don't know. I think the thing that keeps me held on is just people keep saying the roaring 20s like happened after the Spanish flu. So that's my mantra that I keep thinking about, is like the roaring,
whatever that's called. Yeah, right. And you froze, Barrie. Any other thoughts about what's keeping you going?
For me, it's the thing that really keeps us going is just seeing how people have come together, the creative ways we found to keep our business going, the creative things I'm seeing within other companies at the moment, it's really encouraging, right? And for us, it helps us, get this feeling of you're gonna be okay, you're gonna make it. So it kind of propels us forward. Like the beginning, I really felt like, nah, I just don't know. But then from that, it kind of feels like the sky's the limit. There's no stopping. It is, sometimes, you know, I get these thoughts at times where it's like this pandemic is hanging over us. We don't know what the future holds. It's still here, even though you're making strides, even though things are looking up. The idea that the pandemic is still, lingering over us, it does, cause me to think sometimes. But every time I look up, I see it's accomplishing something. I see, this new thing coming to the forefront where someone's reaching out saying, hey, we're looking to help businesses, or look at how we've been able to pivot. It's like, it's so encouraging. It helped us to, look inward and say, all right, we got to do more. So.
Thank you, Jeremy. That's great. It's so true. Anyone else?
Yeah, I love that, Jeremy. And just, to say quickly, I think there's a not very small part of me that every day that feels like that hamster up on the wall, and there was definitely a moment where, you think like, well, everybody's in a bad situation now, and where are we going to get this support from? And, how are things going to work? But like Jeremy was saying, I've got definitely a renewed hope and like a renewed interest and passion for doing what we do, because, you find new ways to be meaningful. You find new people to connect with, even if it looks completely different. And I think that I've been very surprised by the people that have reached out, or the people that come to, a tiny market now, and those things. Like we've had people reach out over social media saying, how can I help? We've had marketing help, we've had social media stuff, and it's people, some kid on his computer in New York that runs, $1 million or 1 million follower like dog page that says, hey, do you need help with social media? Like I came across your page and I was like, absolutely, 17-year-old, please teach me how to do these things,
I know.
So as much as, yeah, I'm like, please. He's like, are you going to market on TikTok? And I'm like, absolutely not. But, just the way that people have come together in the face of this adversity, which I think is, the largest that a lot of us have faced, is just it's been very inspiring. So I'm happy to be a part of it.
Yes. Ask for help and share, and collaborate, all of those things I'm hearing. We're about 15 minutes from closing. I want to leave it open for us to sort of stay on this thread. Is there any other thoughts?
I wanted to share just with everybody, not just the panelists, but our folks who joined in with us today. I do see a few people I know, and my business partner, my partner in life, Kimberly, my wife, she joined us on this call. She's responsible for much of the success we've seen to date. I just wanted to say something that I found not only helpful during the pandemic, but just throughout my childhood and growing up, risk-taking, oftentimes, I know when I was coming up and we hear about risk, right? Sometimes it can be associated with bad things, but I think as entrepreneurs, we have to be willing to take some type of risk in order to get to where we are. And I think all of the panelists would agree that they had to take some type of risk, right? In order to make it to where they are. And even though I know that, right, during the pandemic, things did look a little gloomy early on during the pandemic. And I just want to say that let's not always wait until tragedy strikes, until we're forced in a corner to say, all right, I need to make this jump. I need to take a risk, because I am guilty of that. Like even things like launching my website, that's new to us. You know, you guys probably been online. we just went online during a pandemic, and it's been great. But it took something like, you know, a pandemic and for things to slow down for us to kind of make that jump. But you know, just being willing to take that risk and take a step out there on faith can really take you, you know, a long way.
That's so great. And I think, because I'm also hearing too, there's, you know, the growth is discomfort, like growth is uncomfortable. And I feel like we've been in like a real long growth haul for a minute, just like constantly having to build new skill sets, constantly just having to adapt. And again, like looking within, you know, there's a whole world in there to support. And if we can tolerate that discomfort, ooh, what's on the other side? I'm always excited about that. So I hear that. And shout out to all the people in our lives that are supporting us through these times, because none of us are alone in this for sure. So shout out to Kimberly again, but also Fund 17 is on this call as well. Antonio, you guys do great work and you support a lot of entrepreneurs in the city. So I see you and acknowledge you as well. And we're going to move sort of towards our question and answers, and make sure that, you know, drop a question in the chat if you have any specific questions or any things that you're working on. We have one question already saying, wondering if there was some specific factor that helped you create a new strategy, that helped you pivot to meet current needs quickly. What would you mention to people still struggling? This is Marianne. Anyone want to?
I want to touch on something that like feels like it abuts that, which is that I think we have, because this has just started and it was so intense and it hasn't stopped. I don't think, and I also like resist the push to like normalize what's going on as well. Like, I don't think that we need to be like, this is the new normal, but returning to strategic planning or like personal development, professional development, things that you used to do. Yesterday I did like a 3-hour workshop that like assessed our organizational equity practices. And like, it would be very easy for me to be like, the world is burning, we cannot go to a 3-hour webinar. But we did, and I felt a little bit more connected to what we were doing and a little bit more strategic. So while I don't think that we're just, everything's normal, I do think that returning to those practices of like checking on what you're doing, thinking about it thoughtfully, giving yourself more space and time actually helps you be more adaptive.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I will absolutely piggyback off of what Margie is saying, and giving yourself that space. So we actually took like a 2-month hiatus, because after we had the meal kit program, I mean, A, we couldn't sell anything, and B, I gained a lot of personal insight as far as becoming more involved in direct action and mutual aid in the city, and had to kind of expand my perspective of our impact and where we were sourcing our food from. So what actually happened is that I decided to no longer take in free food, no longer take in donations, and to hand off all of our donation-based partnerships to mutual aid organizations. So Food Rescue US, the New Orleans chapter, is now, you know, intaking all of those donation partnerships, and we were able to connect directly with farmers. So in a sense, if I hadn't been able to take that space, you know, that like pandemic induced space, I would have, you know, never really been able to have made that connection and to be making, you know, now larger impacts and to have more consistency in our product. You know, it's really been a growing period for us, but growing periods always come with pain as well. And then the other thing that I will say to kind of touch back on what Cindy and Margie were both saying as far as advice that I would give, I think something that I have learned is that you have to be able to put yourself out there a little bit more, you know, like I'm very much a perfectionist, and if things aren't exactly how I want them, like I will be paralyzed with fear. I will not make the post. I will not make the call to action. I will not do those things. So something that the pandemic has really pushed me to do is to be able to do that, you know, and also to be very concise in what your asks are, whether it's a customer, whether it's a community member, whatever it is, you know. I think if there's one thing that I personally have taken away from this pandemic is that say what you need and like mean what you say. So yeah.
Yeah, I think building off of that also is partnerships, like is just so important. Like I think in the beginning when we had applied originally for this mass feeding program, we had partnered with all of our chefs and we were like, we've all got this. And honestly, like it was kind of like a big learning lesson of like, okay, like actually be really aware of what you can and can't handle. And we ended up not winning the bid. And getting hired as a subcontractor with Revolution Foods and Chef's Brigade. And I think it was a big moment in like, as you strategize and if you're doing something new, like really, really be aware. And like Margie was saying, like strategic planning and just like, don't lose sight of like what you were doing before, what you're good at, what your like core competencies are, and then like really realizing who is out there that you can work with on the new ideas you have so that together you can like do something greater than like the sum of all of its parts. And it ended up being really great for us that we didn't receive the contract because we actually didn't have the distribution and logistic capacity to do something of that size. And I think it took us like trying to do it on our own and like bring together this whole team and took us like not winning the bid to really realize that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And sometimes it can feel like, you know, things aren't working and they aren't coming together. And if you're steady at it bit by bit, you know, like again, talking about growing pains, it can feel really painful, but it also doesn't mean that you aren't growing and you aren't moving things forward. You know, again, it requires that like steady, keep pushing. At least that's been my experience for Minnow, but also just in supporting the chefs that we work with. And also rest is good. A lot of people got good rest at the start of the pandemic and they needed it. And so I'm a huge advocate of nap ministry and like, you know, resting is a revolution. Doesn't always have to look like we're burning both ends for it to be successful. Yeah. Yeah, like out of the box thinking. Yeah. Is there, okay, so I kind of want to hear like, what do you have working on? How can people engage with you? How can they connect with you? I don't think conversations end just when the Zoom call ends. I think that we build community when we connect and we share time and space. And you know, what are ways in which people can connect with you, support your business, be a vendor, be something? What's that look like? Oh, and then we have a question.
Okay, I'll go first. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
So you can follow me at Crazy Waffle Bar on Instagram, on Facebook, as well as Twitter and TikTok. So I'm on all of those platforms, www.crazywafflebar.com. And then coming soon is Cody's Commissary. So we're working on a website and things of that nature. But if you are a food entrepreneur and you're looking for a commissary or an incubator and something in the next year, not immediately. But if you're looking for something immediately, you can connect with me at Fund 17. I also help with legal formalization. So not to get all over the place. Crazy Waffle Bar, mobile waffle boutique, birthday parties, events, things of that nature. Pop-ups every Saturday. If you follow my page, you'll see the info for that from 10 to 2. And then Cody's Commissary coming in 2021.
Awesome. And everyone should drop their Instagram in the chat so people can follow or have it. And then we have a question. Someone is asking, and keep it fluid. So I'll drop the question and then please answer and then drop your info. I'm curious to hear if anyone has been impacted by ingredients, sourcing, receiving supplies because of COVID and how they've responded. Good question.
Sorry. I know Jeremy probably has the same problem that I do. And there's a
Go
mason
ahead.
jar shortage.
Sorry, what's that?
I was wondering if you're facing the same problem that I am with the mason jar shortage.
No, and we should definitely connect. Let's connect on
Okay.
that.
All right.
That wasn't one of mine, but I did. I might be able to help with mason jars.
Okay. And no, I haven't found a solution yet.
We I think some of the ingredients that we use, but you find ways. There's certain products. Some of my stuff is seasonal already, so it depends on what's growing. But then some things we just haven't been able to get, so we might drop that, and then we focus our attention on a different product, just until we're able to start moving that other product.
Also, if somebody needs help with ingredients, I have done extensive research. So and I went to a couple of expos for suppliers. So I'll be happy to share anything I can. I did not face problems in terms of ingredients, and whatever I can share, just please let me know. I've shared my email somewhere up in the chat.
Awesome. All right, as we wrap here, last 3 minutes, Jeremy, where can we find you? Alyssa, where can we find you?
Crescent City Farmers Market. We do the drive-through market on Sundays at Parkway. You can find our products at Fallbrook Fresh Market. Also now at Bromart on Magazine.
Awesome.
Oh, and the website as well. PickledNOLA.com.
Yeah, so we are doing online sales as well. I'll actually go ahead and drop that in the chat as well. I plug the Instagram, which is at Prospered Pickles. We are doing some smaller markets right now to kind of stay on the safe side of COVID for us personally. So we'll be at the Bywater Sunday Market next Sunday. We'll be doing some holiday pop-up markets at Zony Mash in December. And yeah, so I dropped the Instagram. I did want to go ahead and do a quick plug. Follow us there. We're getting ready to launch an oral storytelling series where we connect with Black and Indigenous farmers and help them tell their stories and give them our platform. Our first feature is going to be with June and Angie of Provost Farms, and I am very, very excited for that. So everybody follow.
That's so good. That's awesome. Thank you, Alyssa. Barrie, Margie.
So our next thing coming up that we'd love for people to support is actually we are a sponsor of Made in New Orleans Foundation's second annual Pass the Peas virtual dinner at home, a 3-course meal by Chef Serena with cocktails by turning tables on December 3rd. You can find ticket. Please spread the word on our gram at My House Events or at Mino New Orleans. I think it is Mino New Orleans, MINO _New Orleans. So that's the next thing we have coming up. And then just like if you feel safe doing so, don't forget to get takeout and support your local restaurants. I think that's like the biggest thing right now that you can do to support the chefs in New Orleans that are trying to look for creative, safe ways to feed you.
Awesome. Thank you, Barrie.
That's a great reminder. Yeah, so if anyone wants to support the work that we do, which is in turn supporting, local small and mid-sized farmers, you can find us at our market, the Refresh Market. It's every Monday from 3 to 6. We actually just changed that time window, so you heard it here first. We haven't even rolled it out. But so we're at 2606 St. Louis. That's right there on the Greenway, and we have all sorts of accessible programs. We do Market Match and SNAP, and we give extra benefits to people who walk or ride the bus or bike to market. And then you can also find us aggregating food for those same farmers on Sunday, right there with Jeremy at the Crescent City Farmers Market drive-through in the Parkway Tavern parking lot. I said that right, yes. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I have thank you all. Like I've learned so much, and you guys are rock stars. Seriously, I'd love to connect later after this webinar. But yeah, we Bhoomi. You can find Bhoomi in Robert's Fresh Market, Canseco's, and some local stores in New Orleans. You can follow us on Instagram and check us on our webpage. Alongside that, if you think I can help or share any information, do not hesitate to reach out. Keep taking deep breaths, and we'll go get over this together.
Yes, we will. Thank you so much. What a beautiful way to spend an hour of the day. Wish everyone the best, good luck, and let's stay connected.
You guys are amazing. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And
Thank
everyone
you.
will
Thank you, Maddie, marketing. Thank you, Mad. Thank you.
And everyone will be receiving a copy of the webinar as well.
Yes.
So thank you so much for our panelists. And yeah, I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of the day, and we'll connect through email.
Awesome.
Thank
Bye.
you all. Take care.
Thanks, Maddie.
I'm gonna get pickles and I'm gonna get some Bhoomi. I'm so excited. I got all these things to go get now. Bye.
Thank you so
Bye,
much.
guys.
Bye.